Two quick vignettes from Republican America in today's news. First, from Benton Harbor, Michigan, a town taken over after the new Republican-controlled legislature and Michigan's new Republican governor expanded and beefed up a law covering emergency financial managers. Under the new law, the state government can declare a local emergency, overrule local elections, and replace any locally elected officials. Republican Governor Rick Snyder's administration will wade in and do what they want in a town or a school district. They will override local democracy and local control. In April, the emergency manager put in charge of Benton Harbor, Michigan, declared unilaterally that the elected officials of that city would henceforth only be allowed to do three things. They could call a meeting to order, approve meeting minutes, and adjourn a meeting. That's it. Does not matter that the town voted for these elected officials. They're not allowed to do anything now. Despite that order, Benton Harbor's locally elected town commissioners recently decided to do something other than call a meeting to order, approve the minutes, and then adjourn. They voted unanimously to declare the week starting September 17th as Constitution Week, honoring our democracy and the signing of the U.S. Constitution. Benton Harbor's emergency manager has now rescinded that resolution, declaring that the decision to acknowledge and honor the U.S. Constitution, quote, was not authorized by the emergency manager and is null and void and of no force or effect. Elected officials not being allowed to honor the Constitution because they've been overruled by an appointed overseer who nobody voted for. Second vignette from Republican America in today's news comes from the Republican race for president. One of the stranger developments in how Republicans are running this year is about who they have to make nice with, who they have to court publicly to try to become the nominee. Since Donald Trump made a short-lived almost run earlier this year based chiefly on him questioning whether President Obama was secretly foreign, Republican candidates and maybe candidates have started making big public photo ops out of being seen to meet with Donald Trump. He met with Sarah Palin back in May and Michelle Bachmann back in July. He met with Rick Perry last week and then called him Jim, which was weird. Now we learn that Donald Trump is reportedly meeting with Mitt Romney at Mitt Romney's request next week. Republican presidential candidates, you would think, would want to put the birther nonsense, questioning the president's birth certificate, behind them. But no, apparently this is a ticket you have to get punched on the way to the Republican nomination this year. Republican candidates also falling all over themselves this year to be seen meeting with Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Here's Joe Arpaio last week with Michelle Bachmann, signing a copy of his book for her in front of the cameras. Joe Arpaio has also spoken with Mitt Romney and with Rick Perry and with Herman Cain. Today we learned that Sheriff Arpaio has formed a posse in Maricopa County to, quote, investigate the authenticity of Barack Obama's birth certificate. The investigation requested by the Surprise Tea Party. Not surprise, it's the Tea Party, but it's the Tea Party from the city of Surprise, Arizona. Because remember, according to the Beltway media, the Tea Party is all about fiscal conservatism. Joining us once again is filmmaker and author Michael Moore, whose new book, Here Comes Trouble, Stories from My Life, just hit the shelves. Michael, thank you for staying with us.
I thought I was just listening to Weekend Update on Saturday Night Live. I mean, you can't write comedy to top this. This is absolutely insane that we're now going to revisit this birther. I thought they would actually, if they were going to revisit it, they would just take it to the next level and just question whether or not he was born, that he's a hologram or he's something else. But this is absolute insanity. And the thing from Michigan with vetoing the community wanting to celebrate Constitution Week. This is, if it weren't so tragic, it would be pretty hilarious. But you have here is the slow creep of those who want to limit and in some cases get rid of pieces of our democracy, piece by piece by piece, so that we can end up with the kleptocracy that they essentially would like to have, where they get to just steal, as they've been doing, money from the middle class and from the poor and amass it. $2 trillion now, I think you said on a show last week, that they're holding in their bank accounts, the corporate America, just cash sitting there that normally would be circulating, no longer there. These are very serious times, and it demands the attention and the participation of everybody watching this show.
You know, we were talking a moment ago about how and it's one of the things I complain about a lot, that the Beltway doesn't really cover the left. There isn't really a sense that the Democratic Party has a base. The other side of that is they really, really do very heavily cover the right and the conservative base and the Tea Party in particular. So why do we have, with all of that blanket coverage, why do we have such a distance between what they say they are about and what they are doing? I mean, the Tea Party narrative, if you read the Beltway media, it really still says they are all about taxes and fiscal conservatism, even with all of the evidence about the birtherism and all of the other stuff, all the other social conservative issues that they really do seem to motivate them.
Yeah, and they are not the majority of Americans. I mean, the actual number, the members, the paid dues-paying members of the Tea Party, it's a very small number. They had to cancel their convention in D.C. last year because they couldn't get enough people to come. They're on their own crazy boat that I call the Titanic. And I think the American people are smarter than this, and they're just gonna let that boat sink. But last week, when Wolf Blitzer and CNN had that debate, the CNN Tea Party Express debate, and Wolf stood there and called them his partners, I just thought, this is amazing, isn't it? Because would you ever see the CNN nurses union debate or the CNN teachers union debate? Because I think there's a few more teachers and nurses in this country than there are members of the Tea Party, but we'll never see that in the mainstream media. And liberal organizations, which have many more members, just don't get the attention. 1,000 people arrested in front of the White House a couple weeks ago on the tar sands environmental issue. Hardly any coverage of this. Can you imagine if 1,000 Tea Party members had been arrested in front of the White House? It'd be the top of every news story. People are down on Wall Street right now, holding a sit-in and a camp-in down there. Virtually no news about this protest. This goes on with liberals and the left all the time, and it gets ignored. And fortunately, there's shows like yours and others who aren't ignoring it. But it doesn't mean it isn't happening. And it will continue to happen. Can I just say one thing about your Donald Trump reference?
Yeah.
I have a theory about this, about Romney and these guys, Perry, going to meet with him. Let's not be so sure that they're going there just to get an endorsement. I just from what little I know of him, the way I think his head and his hair operate in sync with each other, I think that they're going there to convince him not to get back in the race, not to run an independent candidacy. I think Republicans are still somewhat looking over their shoulder at him, that he just may go off at any time in the next few months when he doesn't see a real front runner happening that can beat Obama, and he's just going to declare. And I think they're afraid of that, and I think that's why they're talking to him. You heard it here first. I have no inside information. I like to watch how their heads tick.
I have 20 seconds left. In that 20 seconds, do you think Republicans are more likely to have a third-party challenger from somewhere on the right if Romney's the nominee or if Perry's the nominee?
If Romney's the nominee. The Tea Party will not allow that election to go forward without one of their own on the ballot. So that's the way it'll break, and they'll split the vote, and President Obama will have the second term, which I hope he comes in like gangbusters and does the Roosevelt that we need to see take place. Really do the job in those next 4 years, because we are on the brink of the abyss. And it's a historic moment for him, and he needs to pull the country back. But he better start doing it now, or he's not going to get those voters out there next year.
Michael Moore, filmmaker and author of the new book, Here Comes Trouble, Stories from My Life. Michael, I know your schedule's really crazy these days, and you're promoting this everywhere, so thank you for taking time to be here tonight. It's always really good to see you.
No, thank you for having me from Seattle. I was here at the Battle of Seattle, so it's great to be back.
Thanks a lot, Michael. Good to see you.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.